I'm the dude. So that's what you call me.
Are you a virgin?
Yeah, not since I was 10.
Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
Come on to the coast. We get together, have a few laughs.
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Can I return it if it doesn't fit?
It always fits. Eventually.
Welcome back to Movie Mingle. I'm Caveman.
And I'm Maggie.
And today we're on episode 33, and we're doing Dune.
Hiya! Dune. Tell me about Dune, honey.
Dune. Obviously, this is the Frank Herbert, Denis Villeneuve movie. Dune was written in 1965 by Frank Herbert. It's been viewed as one of the most influential sci-fi books in history. A lot of sci-fi in the past had been things like The Day the Earth Stood Still and War of the Worlds. It was shortly after this book came out, 1969. No.
65?
Well, this one's from 65,
yeah.
but I'm trying to think of when 2001 Space Odyssey.
Oh.
Because at the time, 2001 Space Odyssey was viewed as just this groundbreaking film because of the imagery and the shots that they were able to achieve in the 60s.
Yes.
Nothing had looked like that before it.
Yeah.
And it was...
some background on 2001 A Space Odyssey while Caveman looks up the thing that he needs to look up. I've never seen that movie, and I'm never going to see that movie because fuck does it look boring. Yeah.
I was once told that if a girl could watch... This was when I was a teenager. I was told if a girl could watch 2001 A Space Odyssey with you without saying anything, that she was a keeper.
Yeah, that's some fucking bullshit advice right there.
It was.
I'm glad you didn't listen to it.
I didn't listen to it.
Because I would have had so much to say. Which is why we have this podcast right now.
2001 Space Odyssey came out 3 years after the Dune novel. Not that they have a lot in common. I'm not saying that they do. But
just revolutionary sci-fi for the time.
It's where we were in history with the way we told sci-fi stories. And Dune was very influential in the future of sci-fi stories, including things from Star Wars to Beetlejuice, Terminator.
I mean, countless sci-fi shows and movies.
Alien was a big one. The Matrix was a huge one that was influenced by Dune. Game of Thrones was also very highly influenced by Dune, even though it's a fantasy and not really sci-fi. But the story of Dune, of any of these stories where you have kind of a
epic hero's journey.
An epic hero's journey, but specifically, a lot of times it has to do with a white savior.
A lot of times. The only times.
A lot of white savior stories came out. But yeah, somebody thrust into a world that they are not a part of, native to at all, and then being the one who saves those people. It's kind of hard to avoid that just story plot in general, and it's almost, as you pointed out, always a white guy. Dune was released in 2021, and then Dune Part 2 was released 3 years later.
We are technically just covering Dune 1.
This is Dune 1.
Because that is the movie that is on the list.
This list was made before Dune Part 2 was released.
But we did watch Dune Part 2.
We did watch Dune Part 2 because after this one we were like,
oh shit, let's keep going.
Let's just keep going.
Let's just ride this through.
So we might mention it throughout the podcast here and there and bring it up as far as how it connects this story as a whole. But for the most part, we're doing Dune Part 1 since it's on the list. And I was also, earlier I was looking up awards. I was like, why are there no awards for Dune Part 2? And because it's 2024 movie and we're still in 2024.
God, it only came out in February.
So...
Oh, God, it only came out in February.
The only awards of worth I have for Dune Part 2 is that Austin Butler got a Kids' Choice Award for Best Villain. and Zendaya...
No kids should be watching this movie.
Right? Especially Austin Butler. And then Zendaya also got a Kids' Choice Award for Best Actress.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
So that's as far as Dune Part 2 has gotten so far in the awards season.
And these are just nominations or awards?
No, those were winning. Yeah. Kids' Choice must have another...
A different season?
A different season, yeah. It's not like the Academy or the Golden Globes.
I mean, like, we've got a 12-year-old kid who might enjoy Dune, but I think he'd be pretty fucking freaked out by Austin Butler's character.
And bored.
It's a
not
real
young
talky
kids.
movie, yeah.
So I don't know which kids were watching Dune and enjoying it.
Did they just see TikToks?
Maybe. Or, they're weird kids. They're weird kids just like us who watch movies. They're at the age.
But
the amount of people I know.
no kid voted on Austin Butler to win. I refuse to believe that he is a child's choice for anything.
Maybe kids got to choose nominees and then adults. I don't know how Kids' Choice Awards work.
Here we are right now, Movie Mingle calling out the Kids' Choice Awards.
For a movie we're not even covering.
The wrong movie won. The wrong movie won.
So Denis Villeneuve directed this sci-fi epic.
Yes, Denis
Villeneuve. He has directed some amazing films other than Dune, even though a decade of his life is devoted to Dune now because after Part 2, he is now working on Dune Messiah, which I think is going to be the last one because nobody cares what happens to Dune after Dune Messiah.
Yeah,
like
she gets weird.
Children of Dune is after that. Then there's some other wacky ones, and then after Frank Herbert died, his son and another author teamed up and finished a bunch of his work. And honestly,
all I've heard is that shit gets weirder.
It gets weird. A lot of the Denis Villeneuve and the screenwriters were looking at what they want to cover for Dune Messiah, and they're trying to make it as entertaining as possible because Dune Messiah is so dull.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Denis Villeneuve, but he is an amazing director. I mean, Prisoners from 2013 with Hugh Jackman and
Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah.
Then you got Sicario, which another amazing film of his. Many have voted it as their favorite Denis Villeneuve film. You got Emily Blunt,
Benicio del Toro,
a bunch of other actors. Great. I think Josh Brolin's in it. Great movie. Along with Arrival from 2016. Another.
Yeah, we have to watch that.
We are
at
watching
the end.
it last movie on the podcast.
Yeah.
Spoilers. But another great one, Blade Runner 2049.
That was a beautiful movie, but that was an intense fucking movie.
I do love Blade Runner, but I have probably watched Blade Runner 2049 more. I remember there's a scene in 2049 where they shoot this scene in what was Las Vegas. And when I saw it, I said to myself, wow, I think he'd be great for Dune. Just from the Vegas scene. And I'm so happy that I didn't really predict it, but
you're just happy it came true.
I'm just happy my wish came true. Other than Frank Herbert writing the original novel, John Splates and Eric Roth wrote the screenplays. John Splate also wrote... This guy's got more bummers than hits.
Oh. I'm sorry, this is the writer?
This is the writer.
Okay.
Doctor Strange.
Okay.
So
yeah, good one. Yeah.
Great. Prometheus, which is very divisive.
I don't care for the aliens movies.
I know you don't care, but I know other people out there think it's probably the worst of them all. I think Covenant was probably the worst of them all. Or Alien vs. Predator Part 2 was also hot garbage. But this is when we started getting into Bummerland. We got Passengers.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The Mummy 2017. I thought the list was longer, but that's about it.
Oh.
Eric Roth, on the other hand.
Well, yeah, no, but those two movies are enough to be huge bummers over anybody's career.
not great to have on your resume. But I get it. It's hard writing anything. I know I couldn't do it. Eric Roth he had a hand in writing things like Forrest Gump, The Postman, The Horse Whisperer, Ali, Munich, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Had a hand in writing?
He was one, they're usually like 2, 3, 4 writers. None of these, I don't think any of these he wrote by himself. I didn't check all of them, but on the most of them, it looked like he was just part of a writing team.
Okay.
The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close, A Star is Born, Killers of the Flower Moon. So he gets around. Yeah,
he gets around. He's done some things that have had some note.
He was not credited, however, for Dune Part 2.
Which...
So it went from him and the other writer to just the other writer.
Maybe they needed him there to
supposedly
keep
had a hand in writing.
Yeah.
Music. Oh my god.
Oh fucking boy.
Oh shit.
Oh shit. Motherfucker. We have talked about why.
We have talked about why he was on this project.
Yeah.
Of course.
Why he wasn't on Oppenheimer.
Yeah, that was the main...
After all.
Because he was already booked for this.
We are talking about the motherfucking GOAT.
I mean...
Like...
He needs no introduction.
Yeah.
It's Hans fucking Zimmer.
Hans motherfucking Zimmer. And I said this during the Oppenheimer podcast. I don't think this world could have survived Hans Zimmer scoring Oppenheimer. And so instead he did Dune, and we've barely survived that. This music is big.
It's so big, and even part 2.
Yeah, a lot of that. It's a lot of that, but every time it comes up, it's goosebumps.
I love the drumming in this movie.
Oh God, I know. This movie is so tense. There's so many heartbeats in the music of this film.
Sure.
Like, was I into this movie yesterday. The music is incredible. It's just incredible. Even when you hear the little bits like that pop up softly when something important happens, and you're like, oh shit, we're gonna
build up to a louder hiya.
Oh, Hans goddammit Zimmer.
Love it.
Yeah, he won an Oscar for it.
He did win an Oscar for this.
Which score. The music for Oppenheimer was incredible.
Didn't
Ludwig Göransson
won his Oscar for that, right? Or no, they were up against each other.
Yeah, they went up against each other. Yeah.
Damn. Why'd it have to be? I wonder if Ludwig would have won
if Dune hadn't been a part of it.
Sorry,
wait. No, Dune didn't go up against this Oppenheimer.
They came out different years.
They came out different years.
Goodness.
Yeah.
Dune Part 2 came out. No,
but that hasn't done it yet. Oh God, there's so much pop culture in our heads right now that it's just
Göransson and Hans Zimmer both won Oscars.
Yeah, for these separate
scores.
Yes.
That they both not fought over. That's
no, but Ludwig wouldn't have been there if Hans Zimmer had said yes to Oppenheimer, but none of us would have been here if he had said yes to Oppenheimer, because he would have melted our faces off, our atomic bomb style. Confused. Yeah, it's early. All I can think about is soup right now. I'm not...
Soup?
I want minestrone.
Why are you thinking of soup?
Because I'm hungry.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, I'm going to be
fed you.
Real excited to talk about Oscar Isaac here in a second, but at the moment...
I'm sure you will. Well, before we get there, make you wait a little longer.
Edge me a bit.
So we have talked about this cinematographer before, Greg Fraser.
Mm-hmm.
Not only did he do Dune Part 1 and 2, he also did Rogue One, The Mandalorian, and Zero Dark 30, but the reason why we know him so well before this podcast is because we had a conversation about him when we did the Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we had talked about him in
the cinematography
Dune.
is great in the Batman.
Yeah, his cinematography is beautiful in this movie and in Part 2. Some amazing landscape shots, some wide shots that you just take your breath away as it just kind of pans like a sunset or the city.
There are moments that make you into this movie. The cinematography makes you feel so small. Like you get to see the vastness of Arrakis and of Caladan and everywhere else. So there are moments where you're like, you see something in your head and you're like, that's a spaceship. But it's a spaceship that's coming out of that giant egg-looking ship thing. I'm assuming that's some sort of interstellar travel ship.
The toilet paper roll?
Yes, the toilet paper roll. But you see like ships coming out of that, and then you see the ships like on the ground, and they're fucking huge. Like, the scale of these films is incredible.
Yeah,
and it has everything to do with Greg Fraser. The
look
cities
amazing.
look huge.
Cities look huge.
Sandworms are giant. Like, everything makes you feel small and vulnerable
Even
up against arachnids.
Silhouettes with certain lights behind them, walking through the desert. When you first meet the Atreides family or kingdom, and that massive ship from the Emperor lands, and you got all those people stretched out, or even fast forward to when they land on Arrakis for the first time, and the bagpipes start up and they're marching out of all the ships. I mean, the visuals and the music,
everything's fucking
are just
huge.
so epic and so beautiful. So great job to Greg Fraser, who, just like Hans Zimmer, also won an Oscar for this movie.
And rightfully fucking so.
I mean, this movie won 175 awards, including 6 Oscars, which went to sound, visual effects, production design, original score for Hans Zimmer, editing, cinematography for Greg Fraser, and still waiting on to find out how many Dune 2 might be nominated for.
It's a shame that it won nothing for Oscar Isaac's beard. That was an award-winning beard.
Best beard.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it won an MTV Music Award or MTV Movie Award
For best beard.
Yeah. Dune is certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, of course. It's got an 83% from critics and a 90% from audiences. Dune 2 got a 92% from critics, 2 up from Dune 1.
I'm shocked by that. I think Dune 1's better than Dune 2.
And 95% from audiences, which is 5% more. Yeah.
Huh.
No, we were just a little more kind of bored.
We were a little bored with
like
Dune
coming
Part
out
2.
of it. And maybe it's because we were watching these back to back.
Yeah.
But also the story is a little slower and a little repetitive.
So there was plenty of like just general fatigue because it was close to 5 hours of movie watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, towards the end, it was definitely getting, the end of part 2, I was definitely kind of getting more and more kind of like, I want to just look at my phone. Like the scenes on the Harkonis planet, like that whole gladiator scene with
that was so cool.
Austin Butler.
That was shot so cool.
Yeah, but that was when I got up to make myself lunch and I just didn't care what I was missing.
Man. Some of the shots with when they're walking from inside to outside, and they're in color, and they
the saturation changes,
really slow transition to black and white.
Just there are definitely parts. I'm not saying
the
it was
fireworks looking like those
like weird ink blots.
Ink blots underwater.
I don't know, like I just wasn't like
well,
I was super impressed, but I think watching them back to back, I felt breathless and so entranced by the first one, and I was just so, even though it's such a long movie, I was in it and I was beat for beat and I was enjoying the fuck out of it. And then part 2, I was just like, okay. All right. Yeah, like I don't know. For me, it peters off a little bit, but I'm just gonna say right now, I'm very disappointed in the giant galactic battle at the end, because it
went so fast, and a lot of it's
so
not
fast,
even shown. A lot of it's off
half
camera.
of it, yeah. Like, I'm sorry, but I realize there's a budget, but you cannot promise us sandworms riding into battle and give us like 2 scenes of them and then spend the rest of the time in a fucking hangar during a knife fight. Like, I
know.
Like,
it was
just a little disappointing there for all that buildup. So,
but man, did they turn out more for Dune 2?
Yeah, they did.
Like,
yeah, they did.
Dune 1 was made for 165.
Uh-huh.
And then they upped it to 190 for Dune 2.
Whew.
Dune 1 made $109 million domestic and made $430 million worldwide. So domestic didn't even make their money back. And worldwide added more, but, percentage of what they get to keep.
Well, that could also be because of how it was released.
They may have just broken even by the time. Also, it was the first one. A lot of people didn't know what Dune was, or they had only seen the David Lynch one.
And remember, it was like the first, if not one of the first big movies that HBO was like, we're going to release it in theaters, but this soon after the pandemic, we're also going to automatically release it at home.
It's true.
And Caveman watched it in the theaters, and I watched it at home.
Yep.
So I'm not saying that people didn't turn out because they could just watch it from their living room.
Right.
And it was during a time when, going out was still scary.
It'd be nice to know how big of a watch it got at home.
I'm sure that there might be. I don't know if HBO's ever released it, but I mean, I would garner to say that if they had have not released it in theater or at home at the same time, they would have had at least 25 to 50 million more dollars on that box office easily.
Yeah, maybe.
Even just the people that were curious enough about it to want to spend the time watching it, and who would have gone to see it in theater, but instead just were like, well, let's just watch it at home anyways.
I think it also prepared people to end up turning out for part 2.
Yeah.
Which was 3 years later.
Yeah.
No more pandemic.
Yeah, and to be fair, I mean, I saw Dune Part 1 at home, and I saw Dune Part 2 in theater, because I was like, I need to see this movie on a big fucking screen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it shows because, like I said, it was made for 190, but it made 282 domestic and 710 million worldwide.
God damn.
So people came out for Dune 2.
People very much being like, because I didn't want to see Dune 1 in theater because I didn't care that much. Because I was like, it's just a big sci-fi space opera, stunning cast. Like, my God, the cast is bangable from beginning to end. But, it's big and it's long and it's post-pandemic. And I'll just watch it at home. And then Dune Part 2 came out and I was like, I must fucking see it in theater. It's amazing.
Because sci-fi epics
I know. They're great.
Sci-fi space operas is what we live for.
I know. I literally have them tattooed on my arm.
Yeah.
But what got me into the seat was Oscar Isaac's beard.
Dune stars Timothée Chalamet. The Chalamet.
Which this is our 4th movie with him in it? 3rd? Interstellar,
Lady Bird.
and
this?
And this. I feel like there's something else that he appeared in.
He will be appearing in Call Me By Your Name.
Yeah.
We're watching that, I think.
And Little Women.
Oh, yeah, and he's in Little Women.
Yeah.
So, a lot of Chalamet. And he's a great actor. He definitely does look like the son of Rebecca Ferguson and Oscar Isaac. That
is some great casting there for families.
Yeah, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Go on to Netflix and watch The King. Mm-hmm. We got Rebecca Ferguson playing Lady Jessica.
She's so pretty. She's so good.
She's so good in this.
She's so good.
I mean, she's been great in the Mission Impossible movies. She's really good in his Dark Materials series.
I don't think that was her. I'm almost positive that you're mistaking the woman that was in his Dark Materials for the same woman that played that character in Luther.
I haven't seen Luther.
I know, but...
Oh, Dr. Sleep. That's what she's in.
Yeah. The other woman whose name is... Thrilling Television, Ruth Wilson. The other woman whose name is Ruth Wilson has also done a lot of really incredible stuff. But yeah, they do look like they could be sisters. But fucking Rebecca Ferguson is just stunning. She will go places with her career. She's an incredible actress.
We got Zendaya back after watching her in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah. Love her. She's also...
Still want to see that tennis movie she was in.
Oh, Challengers. It's on Prime or Max right now.
It's all about time.
Yeah, we have no time. Now that fall television is falling back into place, we're struggling to keep up on our weekly shows and our podcast and
just life in general.
And just life in general.
Kids in a job.
Yeah.
Oscar Isaac is in this movie. What? He is?
Who's he? I've never heard of this Oscar Isaac before. Tell me about him.
Well, this Oscar Isaac gentleman has been in a few movies.
Yeah.
Nothing like...
all small stuff?
Yeah, I'm going through my list, and I mean, he was in this movie called The Promise.
Actually, I have wanted to see that.
Mojave.
That's a really weird movie that he did with not Boyd Holbrook, but the other guy that looks like Boyd Holbrook, who was in Tron Legacy.
The Crew from 2000.
Oh, I couldn't tell you what that is.
Yeah.
That's some early
Yeah,
stuff. That's some baby Oscar Isaac.
Yeah, that's about it. Like, I can't.
Is he cute?
I mean, he's okay. He's, I guess he's
He's no caveman.
traditionally handsome, I guess. Nobody would call him ugly, I don't think.
God, if they did, I'd punch him.
And then we got Jason Momoa, who is amazing in this movie. I will just say it now. I know you're going to make fun of his name, but I think Duncan, Idaho is Jason Momoa's best character that he's ever gotten to do for film or television.
I don't know. You haven't seen the Minecraft movie yet.
I have not seen the Minecraft movie yet. No, he could blow me away with that performance.
Yeah, that might be an Oscar-level performance, said no one.
I mean, I love him in Game of Thrones. I
Yeah.
love him as Aquaman.
Not a lot of range in Aquaman.
A lot of surfer dude kind of.
I mean, he did play
bro.
that sort of wildly over-the-top, definitely queer bad guy from the Fast and Furious part
He was
70.
He was very over the top. Yeah.
Yeah, very flamboyant.
Fast X.
I'm pretty sure he was just in love with Vin Diesel the whole time. And then that was his sort of like, all of that calamity was because he was not fucking Charlize Theron came back. When are those movies? What is that?
I don't know. Part 2 is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Whenever.
Because I can't believe I got into those movies the way that Caveman got me into those movies, but he fucking did.
But no, Duncan, Idaho's cool.
Duncan, Idaho
And you get to finally see Momoa without a beard.
is, yeah, for like, you see him with a beard for a couple seconds, then you see him without a beard, and collectively everyone goes, put the beard back on, buddy. Because I'm not saying that he's not handsome when he's shaved, but it's better. It's better.
Whatever.
He's not ambibeardstress like Oscar Isaac is. You cannot. Maybe he shaved because he knew he could not go up against the glory that is Oscar Isaac's beard in that fucking movie. The only other better
I'll go with
beard
that.
he has ever had in a movie is fucking Zori from Star Wars Episode 9, because she didn't belong there and he's gay and she was basically his beard. But anyways, let's get back to Duncan, Idaho.
What are you talking about?
I don't know. Just let me talk.
I have been.
You're like, that's the problem, Maggie. Duncan, Idaho is an absolute all-around badass. And he has the stupidest name I have ever heard in my life. I'm sorry, but Duncan, Idaho is the dumbest goddamn name anybody has ever given to a character ever.
That's not,
His last name is Idaho.
Yeah, there's Indiana
Nobody even
Jones.
likes. Yep. Nope. That's a strong name. Indiana Jones is a strong name, and you call him Indy. What are you going to call Duncan, Idaho? Duncan Potato?
Johnny Utah.
Johnny Utah is also a really fucking
No,
stupid
Johnny Utah's
name.
great.
Yeah.
Actually, Johnny Utah got his name from Duncan, Idaho.
Really?
Yeah, when they were choosing names, they wanted.
They were like, I know, we'll just give him a name and then a state.
Pretty much.
It's fucking dumb.
No, Johnny Utah's
And you
awesome.
know what? Fine. Johnny Utah is a dumb name, but at least it fits into Point Break. Duncan, Idaho is in space. Idaho does not belong in space.
Okay.
It barely belongs in this
Earth
country.
exists in this universe.
And Duncan, Idaho is the
And
dumbest goddamn name in the galaxy.
It's been. Humanity has been around for over 10,000 years.
Mm-hmm. And yet they're still naming their kids stupid fucking shit.
Yeah, what's new? We also got the wonderful Stellan Skarsgård, who has been in 150 plus movies,
And shows. And he's great.
and he shows up, and you're like, awesome.
Yeah, this is going to be a
That's-
good fucking
Stellan
ride.
Skarsgård's
Oh, he
gonna
plays
be-
the bad guy? This is going to be a good fucking ride.
I mean, you get fun things. You get him. I think the first thing I may have seen him in was
King Arthur for me.
he played a Russian submarine captain in The Hunt for Red October.
He's in The Hunt for Red October?
Yes,
I don't think
as
I knew
a
that.
Russian captain.
I haven't seen that movie since I was a small child. So, that's a great film for a 7-year-old to watch.
He was also he played a scientist in Deep Blue Sea that gets eaten by a shark.
I still know him from, I remember him in King Arthur first and foremost.
King Arthur, his character in King Arthur is so
fucking good.
good.
He
It's
kind of makes that movie
such a great bad guy, and so you totally
Yeah.
he plays that bad guy. That guy is more that character is scarier than the Baron in this one.
Well, I mean, because the Baron's just this giant floating blob that is menacing,
Yeah.
but ultimately very fragile.
He's
Versus his bad guy in King Arthur was just fucking balls to the wall, insane. Just a Norseman that will rip your throat out with his teeth, and
Man, it's so cool.
kind of hot.
He played Bootstrap Bill in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies.
Bootstraps. He played that
He
incredible
played
character
Eric Selvig in the Thor movies.
which is where I learned to love him in terms of his just comedic, non-scary, roles.
People should check him out in a couple of the best acting I've seen from him. I'm sure there are other things that he's had amazing acting in, but I haven't watched all his stuff. A couple TV shows to note. You got the Chernobyl miniseries from 2019 that he's amazing in, and then you have Andor season 1 and the 10 episodes he's in that.
And he'll be back for season 2.
I'm
right?
sure he will, and
Yeah.
I cannot wait. And he had some of the best lines, the best line of dialogue.
Stellan Skarsgård was given the best Star Wars speeches of all the Star Wars speeches, and he knocked them out of the fucking park.
He's probably the best actor I've seen in Star Wars.
Yeah, no, I would wholeheartedly agree with that, because his speech about what he has given up for the rebellion
That was an amazing moment.
Devastatingly good.
Yeah.
And you understand this character to his core, and all of this sadness and anger that lives in him for this rebellion that he is passionate for, knowing full well that he won't see the other side of it. Like, it's fucking beautiful, man. Andor is some of the best Star Wars to ever Star Wars.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I cannot wait for season 2.
Josh Brolin plays Gurney. Something else I was going to do but haven't been doing was I was going to kind of point out, because Dune is such a it's been made before, as we said earlier, by David Lynch. It was going to be made in the 70s by Alejandro Jodorowsky, but that didn't happen, and we'll talk more about that later. But Josh Brolin is playing Gurney Halleck, who in the David Lynch version was played by
Patrick
Stewart.
Yeah.
Which I really love Patrick Stewart's character, the way he plays him in David Lynch's movie. But I also I love Josh Brolin. I love watching him in everything that he does. I love that they brought his stringed instrument back for Villeneuve's Dune for part 2. Because at the beginning of David Lynch's, Patrick Stewart was playing some weird looking
It's
instrument.
like a half guitar. Yeah.
Still suit is full of piss. My head is caked in sand. Save me from these utter morons. Another world. Another land.
Javier Bardem plays Stilgar.
Yeah, he's great.
Love Javier Bardem.
Yeah. What don't you love? Like, he's just always a joy to see.
Also, Javier Bardem and Josh Brolin finally get to be together again after No Country for Old Men. Now, this time they're on the same side instead of trying to kill each other.
Still haven't seen that one either.
Dave Bautista plays Rabban Harkonnen, a beast of a guy, and played by a complete kind of moron-looking doofus in the 2000 sci-fi
I was like,
miniseries.
those are some strong words
for
Greg Petito.
No. Dave Bautista played this role really well. Is just like this menacing thing, but also a moron when it comes to strategy, which is and war in general, which is what the book had that character do as well.
Sure, he's a brute of a soldier, but he doesn't have the military brain.
Because that was Fade Routha, played by Austin Butler's character, who we all know, well, except for Maggie, who we might have to show Maggie a certain sword fight between Sting.
Yeah,
and,
I've seen
and Kyle MacLachlan.
Yeah, where he's in the tiny little Speedo and
the metal Speedo.
he's oiled up and he's Sting. Like I've pop culture exists. I am aware of the 70s Dune. I'm also aware that David Lynch technically wasn't credited on it in some cuts. So, like, I know a lot of the discourse surrounding
David
Dune.
Lynch didn't want to be credited as in some things. Babs Olusan-Mokun played Janice, who has a bigger role in every other edition except for this one.
Yes.
Which is unfortunate because I love that actor.
I do too. He's great in Star Trek Strange New Worlds. He's just such a wonderful character and has such a great gravitas. And I really kind of liked that they, in Paul's like flash forwards where he was seeing the future, right? This character, Jamis, played more of a, mentor role to him, I'm assuming. But then, it goes to show how like fate and free will can sometimes be at a cross, because then all of a sudden Janice was like, no, fuck this guy. He shouldn't be here. And we're going to fight to the death for it.
Yeah.
I thought it was clever.
I like that there's another universe out there where they were friends. Because I think that some of the visions that he was seeing was how Janice was going to be his mentor. It was going kind of the way of the book. Of course, it's fun to see David Desmalchin in anything. Mm-hmm. He's got a short part, but really menacing weirdo, which he's always good at playing. And that's our main cast. The only other person that some people might know was Dr. Wellington Yue, or Dr. Yue, as he's mainly called in the book. I'm happy that he got the job, even though it was kind of... he's the betrayer. He's the guy who he's the reason why everybody in the family's dead. And... Well, I mean, technically the Emperor's the reason, but they need an inside man. But they got an inside man to lower their defenses and let them just straight up attack him under night. And he was the love interest in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
What's his name? His name is
Chang Chen. He was Xing Zi's love interest in Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. Mm-hmm. There were the whole thing's a big love story between Chow Yun-fat and Michelle Yeoh, but the young love between Jen and Lo, which is a really beautiful, beautiful movie. And when I saw, because I was looking at the cast, months before this movie came out, and when I saw that he was playing Dr. Yue, I thought that was pretty cool and fun that he got to be in it. And then just the actors that kind of got added in for part 2, because mostly everybody just shows up for, they're all in it still.
Unless they died in the first one.
But Austin Butler is Fade. Florence Pugh is Princess Irulan.
Pew pew.
Who's the essentially the narrator of the book. Princess Irulan is. She also narrates a bunch in David Lynch's Dune. Then you got Christopher Walken as the Emperor, which...
It wasn't that bad. It could have been worse.
He wasn't bad. Yeah. It was just... I don't know if it fit the world.
Sometimes it's hard to not see Christopher Walken and just think, oh, there's Christopher Walken. It's like Jack Black these days. Like every Jack Black character, I'm just assuming is Jack Black.
Yeah.
Especially since he looks the same across... like all TV and all his movies and all his shows and everything else. It's just always the same look these days. So like they could put different clothes on him, but there's just still Jack Black with that crazy beard and crazy hair. I kind of feel the same way about Christopher Walken. It doesn't matter where you put Christopher Walken. He's just still Christopher Walken in the middle of Dune.
Well, let's get into this massive film.
Yeah, it's a long one. It's a fucking Shakespeare in space. With Oscar Isaac's beard.
So before we watched this movie, you and I kind of made you watch the documentary of Jodorowsky's Dune.
Yes, you did.
What did you think of Jodorowsky's Dune?
Oh, I mean, it's, for those of you who don't know, famed, insane director Alejandro Jodorowsky, I believe I'm saying his name right,
Close enough.
back in the 70s, like early 70s, wanted to make Dune, and he wanted to make it his way, and it was going to be fucking bonkers, and it was, quite properly ahead of its time, because the technology that he wanted was not there yet, and would not be there until, now, let's be honest.
And the studio was not...
Yeah, and the studio wasn't willing to
fork over the money to try to get that technology going. I mean, certain directors like James Cameron, who just like, I'm doing this.
Yeah,
like, all right, here's
George,
some money.
Or, George Lucas, who was just like, we're going to figure this out and make something incredible.
Peter Jackson.
Yeah, so I thought it was a fascinating documentary. For the most part, I liked Jodorowsky up until he said some really weird shit at the end.
He says some weird shit
that
throughout, but towards the end,
but towards the end, it's like, whoa.
All right, buddy.
Okay,
You've got
stop saying that word.
You've got some beliefs.
Yikes. I think that the world wouldn't have been ready for that film. I think he definitely would have killed his son, who was supposed to play Paul. I think he would have done it for the film. And I think that we never would have seen the film because it would have been
a snuff film.
A snuff film, yeah. It was a fascinating look into a movie that never was. And it was also fascinating to see how all the people that he hired to help create this world would go on to do other things, and they would use all these ideas, right? Like the artists and the cinematographers and all these, like Jodorowsky's Dune, that movie was like picked clean once it made it out there to Hollywood, and Hollywood said no. Like the ideas of that movie were picked clean by everybody, and then put into all the sci-fi that we knew from the 80s moving onward. So I thought it was fascinating. I'm glad that I watched it. I will probably never need to watch it again. It was an interesting story. I felt that everybody on there was hella pretentious, but...
Oh, yeah. I mean, the artists that he got to be with him...
Oof.
You had...
Dali was going to be the emperor.
Salvador Dali was going to be the emperor.
I mean, the cast alone was insane. I'm just talking about the artist behind it.
He already showed up, but he is an artist behind it, but
yeah,
he showed up with a bunch of ideas, and being an artist himself had some input in how things should look.
Yeah. They wanted Orson Welles to be Baron Harkonnen because he was giant and fat.
Yeah. Who also, is another guy who's got a lot of...
Yeah, he's quite the talent, and he's quite the ego. He is probably who Ego the Living Planet was based on, because he was the size of a planet.
And he played a planet in Transformers.
Yeah, and that was his last movie. Anyway.
He hired all sorts of artists to work on this thing.
So yeah, if you like Dune, it's a worthwhile documentary to watch, especially if you like just 70s and 80s sci-fi. I don't necessarily think that it was informative viewing for watching this version of Dune.
No,
but I'm glad we did. At first, Caveman was talking about making me watch the David Lynch version, the sci-fi miniseries. Why? To judge this movie, why would I have needed to sit through David Lynch's version? And which version of David Lynch's movie? That's the other thing. I don't...
The version that he took his name off of.
Care that much?
It's okay.
As much as
Which is why I didn't force it.
Yeah, but you wanted me to.
Well, yeah.
It would have been like me...
Completionist.
It would have been like me making you watch the 1995 BBC version of Pride and Prejudice before I made you watch the 2005 version.
I would have sat through it if you thought it was... You would have sat through it, but
it was unnecessary.
Important.
I'm not saying...
A lot of the art that they show in that documentary was used in Alejandro... Or in
David Lynch's?
No.
Denis Villeneuve's?
I'm talking about the documentary now. I think a lot of the things what it did for sci-fi in general, for the look of sci-fi films, the ships that we see, a lot of the ships that we see in Denis Villeneuve's Dune were the same designs from Alejandro Jodorowsky's.
Yes, they played homage to it and to that
the artist
giant...
that he...
Yeah, and then there's the giant Dune Bible, which is the... basically the version of his movie, Jodorowsky's movie,
it's got the
storyboards, it's got costumes. It is
everything.
The only way that you'll ever be able to watch that movie, but only 2 of those books exist on this planet. So
you got people like H.R. Giger who came in.
I was for sure that guy was older than he was. Whenever I hear H.R. Giger's work, I always in my head think that he was born at the turn of the century and did weird shit back then with Poe.
Wow.
And not that he was a
much younger man.
modern dude who is still alive, I think. No, he died recently. You said he died from a fall.
I was not aware exactly when Salvador Dali lived and died.
Yeah, it's
Wasn't-
always later than you think.
And like, oh, he was still alive in the 70s?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
I think he died in the 80s, like late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah. Well,
But yeah, definitely one of those people that you're like, oh, he was alive later than I thought he would be.
when Jodorowsky was trying to find somebody who would do the visual effects, the essentially what the movie's going to look like, he originally went to the guy who worked on 2001: Space Odyssey, but that guy was like, no thanks.
Yeah.
No thank you.
Spaced out.
And so he instead went to a man named Dan O'Bannon, who at the time was a artist for sci-fi novel covers, and was famous in that field, but then came on to the Dune project. It got canceled, and so then many people like H.R. Giger went on to do movies like Alien, which also Dan O'Bannon was the
like
main
this group
writer.
of people kind of like stuck with each other and worked with each other through some stuff.
But between Dan O'Bannon and H.R. Giger, and obviously Ridley Scott had a lot to do with it. They've created one of the most popular sci-fi movies in history.
Yeah, and that's all really well, cool, and fine. Like it's a fascinating story, and like I said, if you really love like 70s and 80s and early 90s sci-fi, I think that this would be a documentary that would be worth your while. It's 90 minutes long. It's not that much of a commitment, and it is quite fascinating. It's just that I'm saying you don't have to watch it in order to enjoy Dune. You wanted me to watch it because you thought it would be, informative and entertaining, and it was.
As far as since you're a pop culture geek,
yes,
I think if you are into pop culture and little factoids like that,
yeah, it's quite the history of a time in pop culture
to look at it that way.
Yeah,
but yes,
like I'm not angry that I watched it.
You don't need to read the book, the Dune book, to go into this movie. You don't need to watch David Lynch's movie. You don't need to watch the 2000 sci-fi miniseries.
But you wanted me to.
Yeah, of course I do.
I've got friends that fucking love Dune, and that's great. It's some people really like this is their fucking jam, but I knew very little going into it other than that fucking beard. And I want to eat that beard, caveman.
I know you do.
I want to shave it off with friction. That's why I got into this movie, and I'll have you know that it's not the only reason I enjoy this movie.
That's good.
This
I'm glad
movie is spectacularly well done.
I'm glad that it's not just a beard you like.
No, it's not just a beard that I like. I like everything attached to the beard, and I will also note that on several different moments of Oscar Isaac's tenure on screen, I saw you watching me more than watching the movie because you were excited about my response. Like when he spit on that table. Ooh, daddy. I mean, there was too much spit in that movie, but at the same time, I enjoyed that scene. But I'm just saying, like, I clocked you watching me. Or like when, the Duke he's on his way to be assassinated, right? He's in that chair, naked and vulnerable.
I have to see a reaction
just
to a naked Oscar Isaac.
so much thigh.
There's a lot of thigh that goes all the way up.
Yeah, and his strong chest and his great nose and his beard. I will note, going back to my original point, that Timothy Chalamet and Oscar Isaac really do kind of play father and son, because Timothy Chalamet has the same sort of like unique madness that Oscar Isaac has. They yell the same. Like when they're pissed off and they're yelling at somebody, it is a very similar sort of like rage and voice and tenor. And like I was like, fuck yeah, that's some good casting, because I 100% believe that Oscar Isaac fathered Timothy Chalamet in this world. And it's hot, man. Like, I'm here for it. I love the guy. I love the guy. And I got to see his thigh, and he spit on a table. Like, for that alone, this movie gets 10 out of 5 stars for me, and you know it. What more do you want from me? I talked about Duncan Idaho's stupid name. I could talk about Oscar Isaac's eye crinkles for a while if you want me to.
I was another thing that I was that I thought of when I was watching this is the connections it has to the Matrix, which when you watch this movie with the grandness of its, houses and planets and farming spice and all this other stuff, you don't really think of the Matrix. But when you think of a man who travels to a new world, fights the enemy that attacks that world, falls in love with one of its people, is called the One, who is promised to save the people of that world, and is trained to join the fight, all to stop these people who are just there to take their precious resource. And just like in the Matrix, you have other human beings being taken for their essentially their energy that's in their body. The human being turned into a battery, essentially. So they're the spice.
So in other words, they stole a lot of stuff from Dune to make the Matrix.
You also have, we all know that Avatar stole a bunch of stuff, but Avatar does the same thing where the white savior comes down and
Blue savior?
Well, he was white first.
He becomes blue.
He becomes one of them.
Yeah, no, you're right, because Paul becomes a Fremen, and
like Dances with Wolves, he becomes one of the natives.
Yeah.
Instead of spice for Avatar, they're looking for unobtainium.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that's the dumbest fucking name. Joseph Campbell.
Even people like Jon Snow is viewed as the white savior who's saving. He's the chosen one from a long line of important kings. Joins up with a group of people that are not his own, known as the Others.
So there is a widely recognized storytelling pattern called the hero's journey. And Joseph Campbell wrote a book called The Hero's Journey that, thousands of writers and screenwriters and everybody has used basically the basis of this book, right? Or these like 12 steps, and have put them into, they've taken that and then they've put it into every story that has been written like in this century, right? It starts with the call to adventure. It then gets the refusal of the call. So somebody's like, hey, come and, you're the hero that we need, right?
Like Commando.
Yeah. And that's the refusal of the call. Number 3 is meeting the mentor, right? Number 4 is crossing the threshold. This, by the way, is just Star Wars.
I was going to say, this is Star Wars.
Beginning to end. Test allies and enemies. The approach of the inmost cave. So it's basically facing your greatest fears and challenges to overcome.
Oh man, Luke Skywalker literally went into a cave.
Yeah. There's the ordeal, right? Where this is the moment of the hero's greatest challenge where they face a major obstacle or enemy and must overcome it. There's the reward. Then there's the road back, the resurrection, the return, and the freedom to live. This is the blueprint, thank you, of every major story that you and I have ever loved. And so, sure, they're going to take out some steps, like, say, maybe the road back we don't really ever get to see. We don't always have the resurrection of the character, but sometimes it's of somebody else's character, right? Like, this has been pop culture stories from beginning to end for a hot minute. And, it's a very interesting thing once you know about the hero's journey and you understand the different steps. You're like, well, there's Luke Skywalker, there's fucking Paul Atreides, there's Indiana Jones, there's like all of these characters that we've loved over the years. It's all kind of the same pattern because it's an easy way to tell. You don't have to set up your own frame of the story, right? The frame is already there and you fill in the blanks.
Right.
One of the most clever things that I've ever seen when it comes to using the hero's journey as a storytelling device is in the Frozen song, Into the Unknown in Frozen 2, where Elsa is hearing literally the call to adventure. And in that same song, she goes through the 4 steps of the first 4 steps of the hero's journey in one song in about 3 minutes, which is the call to adventure, the refusal of the call, meeting the mentor, and crossing the threshold. Like, she goes through all of that in one song, and that's really cool. And it's clever to see how people utilize these steps. You're going to find it in The Matrix. You're going to find it in Dune. And yeah, it sounds like The Matrix picked up a lot of stuff from Dune. heavily influenced, stealing, one or the other. It's the same thing. Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah, it's like what people do to Kurosawa movies.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been remade over and over. Same stories. From as old as Magnificent Seven all the way up to Rebel Moon. His movies have been redone.
Rebel Moon is so fucking bad.
So bad.
But this is just the study of the hero myth narrated. This is off of Wikipedia. The study of hero myth narratives can be traced back to 1871. This has been our stories for a while.
The hero's journey, but I mean, I think there's extra elements.
Well, yeah, no, you don't copy it from beginning to end. You put in your own shit. You
put in
change
your own
stuff
shit,
around.
but I think the shit that they put in for Dune was then taken and.
Yes.
I mean, even Star Wars wasn't just based off of the hero's journey.
No.
You throw in a little bit of Kurosawa in there. You throw in the Vietnam War happening during that time. You have...
Again, it's you change it. You modernize it. You give it the references or the
trials and tribulations that humanity's going through at the time to reflect in your own...
I think that Dune is a terribly clever movie to show in this era, with its usage of showing how oppressors take over a planet or a people or a resource, right? That is shit we're doing now. We are absolutely the oppressors in most of these situations.
Well,
you can look at the Fremen and you can kind of be like, well, that's the Palestinian struggle. Well, that's the Middle East struggle. That's the Congolese struggle. Like, it's all of these stories are so relevant. This book was written like 57 years ago, almost 60 years ago.
Almost.
And it is still wildly relevant today. It's the best storytelling is a mirror that shines our own, paths back on us for good and for evil. And it stands the test of time, which is unfortunate because there's always going to be oppressors and people that are oppressed. But
even the Bene Gesserit were just manipulating politics for centuries. I mean, from behind the scenes, and just that
crossing bloodlines to try to get their savior,
or planting
the seeds.
Centuries ago, they planted seeds about this prophecy, so that in the future they can make the prophecy come true, because they're the ones who planned it.
Yeah.
But when you are centuries later and you don't know those people who planned it, who created it, who lied about it, you didn't know them. It's the problem with a lot of religion. It's
this movie is so, like, the second one especially it's hard to see where the manipulation of religion and the belief of religion, like how those two lines are separated because they're so merged together, whether or not, because Jessica is absolutely manipulating what she considers the weak to back her son and call him the Messiah. She doesn't necessarily believe that he is, although is he not? Nobody knows, but there's literal manipulation through religion to try to get people to believe that he is. Meanwhile, he's like, I'm only going along with this because I know that it'll get me an army to revenge my father, but then Paul starts to fall for it, and at what point does prophecy and manipulation interconnect, and whose prophecy is it in the first place? Is it the Bene Gesserits? Is it the Fremen? Like, it's crazy because you literally see people who are non-believers fall for the belief that this man is the Messiah. Are they believing that because of the shit that he's doing? Or are they believing that because of a prophecy that was put in place a couple hundred years back by the Bene Gesserit? Or is he actually God? Like, what is the what and who and why, right? Like, it's fascinating to see the way that religion is used as a weapon. That's definitely, none of that has any modern...
modern religions would never...
No, God, no. God, fucking Christian fundamentalism is definitely not a threat to this entire world. And people wonder why I don't go to church.
Not just Christian fundamentalism, but any, like, most religions around the world, especially religions where it's like, this is the one religion, and if you don't follow it in our country, you're...
Well, and then, but sometimes it's not even that either. Sometimes it's the propaganda used by the oppressors to make us think that all Muslims are bad people when they're not, right? When there is a religion of love and harmony, but we Americans have been taught to believe differently by the media, especially post 9/11, but even pre 9/11. I mean, look at fucking James Cameron's True Lies. The bad guys in that movie are just walking Arab stereotypes. Like, aren't they called the Red Jihad, Crimson Jihad, or something like that? Like, there's just, we've been told for years that Islam's the bad religion, Christianity's the good religion. And it's not just religion telling us that. It's our governments, it's our media, it's our stories. It's kind of insane when you take a big step back and look at it. I'm not a religious person, and my beliefs and what is out there are mine alone, and we're not going to go into that. But as a non-religious person, their entire life, who has gone to different churches and has friends of many different faiths, you talk to people, and sometimes you take a step back and you go, oh boy, that's crazy. Other times you go, oh, that's actually quite beautiful. Like, I was shocked the other day when we were watching a recap of Con Air, how much they shoved Jesus down your throat in that fucking movie. It's Con Air. Where does Jesus stand in Con Air?
There's a lot of Jesus
There's
in the 90s.
There's a lot of Jesus talk in the mid-90s. And there was a lot of, like, ooh, Muslims are bad. Right? There was a ton of that for years pre 9/11.
I mean, there's always been...
But so it's not necessarily what religion has the insane ideas. It's who we have been taught are the bad guys through the use of propaganda and religion. Going back into Dune, you know, the Fremen are the bad people. The Fremen are native rats. They're desert thieves. But they're the natives. They're the indigenous people that are being devastated by the commodity of spice, right? They're being just, their planet has been taken from them. They're the bad guys. They're murdered constantly for the use of this drug, which, how does a drug also fuel inner space travel?
It's multi-use.
I do enjoy, though.
If you saw the David Lynch version,
when Timothy
you'd see
Chalamet
it.
fucking trips so hard. That boy trips balls so hard so many times that he is useless in this first movie because he gets a face full on spice and he is high as a kite.
Yeah.
And those parts amused me.
Yeah, in the David Lynch version, there's, and I think in the book, it talks more about how there are these race of beings who I guess were originally human but had so much spice that they turned into this whole nother, like they essentially mutated into this whole other being who live off of the spice and can essentially they open wormholes with their brain.
Which,
because of the spice they're taking.
It's some fucking sci-fi nonsense.
It is some sci-fi nonsense.
That's what this whole movie is. My point going back to it originally, though, is just that I really enjoyed watching, especially from beginning to end, watching both Dune Part 1s and 2s. The Part 1s and the Part 2s. I enjoyed seeing the use of religion as oppression, actual oppression as oppression, you know, fate as oppression. Like, I enjoyed seeing all of those played out. And again, I feel it's wildly timely. I'm all for the Fremen taking over their own planet and kicking all the ass that they possibly can. Good for them, but I also believe that Zendaya is the true hero. She's the true... I'm going to fuck this up so badly. I'm on a thing right now telling me how to explain Lissim Al-Gahid.
If I saw it in front of me,
I am
could pronounce
so bad
Where's the word?
No, it's not even on this list, which is annoying, but it's very hard for me to pronounce Arabic words correctly. The Mahdid. Anyways, their savior, right? It should have been Zendaya and not Timothy Chalamet. But then fucking boys on the internet would have lost their fucking minds. Shai Hulud, those are the...
Well, then there's the Kwisatz Haderach.
Yes, which that's a fun one.
Mahdi.
Mahdi, yes, is like the
savior word that they use for him. Which is funny because they go from Mahdi when they see him, when they see the family first arrive. Yeah. A lot of the Fremen are like, Mahdi. And then eventually he gets the nickname Moab-Deep.
After the little rat.
Moab-Deep. After the desert rat, who essentially is a kangaroo rat. Kangaroo mouse?
Yeah,
I think that's what they're called. Mouse. Yeah, because it looks very big ears and the hairy tail looks very much like Australia's kangaroo mouse. There are times when I get confused between the difference between when you're hearing it, it's one thing that if you saw it subtitled, you'd be able to see it better. But the difference between Mahdi and Moabdi
Yeah.
can get a little...
So this
I
morning,
think by the end I had it.
I think because you were working on editing an episode and our son was lost in YouTube on his phone, I watched a documentary that a good friend of mine sent me, this little half-hour thing on YouTube called Dune, Islam, and Religion by a YouTube channel called Let's Talk Religion. It's like 29 minutes long, but it was really fascinating to see, because the friend who sent me this is Muslim, and she's also a giant nerd, and it's really fun to talk to her about a lot of this stuff. And so, she's been telling me kind of about, I mean, it's not hard to see the Islamic influences on Dune and on Frank Herbert when he wrote it. I think that I don't know a whole lot about Frank Herbert's life, so this is just a kind of wild judgment, but I really think that he just sort of like cherry-picked cool-sounding shit back in the 50s when he wrote this book, to like make these worlds feel real. He, obviously he was probably, I would assume, I don't know, I know nothing about the guy, but at least he knew enough about Islamic religion, Catholic religion, Zen Buddhism, which I guess is something that he studied, that he, kind of cherry-picked all these ideas to put into his book to kind of flesh out the world of his book, right? Instead of creating these religions and these people, he kind of based them off of actual religions out there in the world that he knew. And it was really interesting to see, like, who the Bene Gesserit are, and the fact that, like, yeah, they're a takeoff of Jesuits. Totally. It's in the name. And, a lot of other really interesting things. But it was very fascinating to see that it also wasn't done with any ill intent. He seemed to do it with a lot of, like, love and affection, or at least respect for all these different religions and cultures that he borrowed from. But it was a really interesting thing to watch. And you made me watch Jodorowsky's Dune. I might make you sit down and watch this, but it was interesting to see how he is kind of taken from all these different cultures. All to say that it should have been, and it still might be, Zendaya, who is ultimately the one, the real hero of this story in the end. I don't know how Dune Messiah is going to look
correctly,
but like Paul Atreides turns into a real asshole by the end of it.
Paul goes into like full-on Messiah mode.
Yeah.
I know
Emperor,
his
ruler.
sister, who we didn't talk about her in the film because she's got one scene in like 2 lines, but
Anna
Taylor-Joy, who's been talked about in our podcast a bit, was played a grown-up version of his unborn sister, yet to be born sister, and she too.
There's so much fetus in that second one. We saw that shit on IMAX, and I was like, "There's a fetus."
Has a very big fetus.
Such a giant fetus.
Both David Lynch's version and the 2000 miniseries have filmed like a 10-year-old version of his sister, and she is more powerful than her mother or her brother. These are things that I'm like really looking forward to seeing in the next Dune.
Do you think they're actually going to make it?
I do, because it will make them money.
It'll make them money. Yeah, no, you're right.
And Denis Villeneuve wants to do it. Even though I hope after this he does something completely different.
That gets out of it for a minute.
Yeah, out of sci-fi.
Yeah.
He's been in sci-fi for a long time, especially because of 2049 and Arrival. I also like how Dune has influenced a lot of music. One of my favorite stories was how Iron Maiden wrote a song called "To Tame a Land," and the lyrics are very they're based on the story of Dune.
Well, I mean, like Led Zeppelin flat out sang about Lord of the Rings, so
yeah, it's on their last track on their Peace of Mind album, and they were originally going to name the track Dune, and then sing about Dune the book. The band was denied permission from Frank Herbert's agents, and they stated Frank Herbert doesn't like rock bands, particularly heavy rock bands, and especially bands like Iron Maiden. That's a quote. And then a bunch of other bands throughout the years have put the story of Dune or the description of Dune, even from people all the way from like Dave Matthews to 30 Seconds to Mars. Another one of the great songs to be used, which actually has a connection to Denis Villeneuve's movie, is
A Pink Floyd song?
No, Fatboy Slim's
Oh.
Weapon of Choice. If you walk without rhythm, you won't attract the worm.
Yeah.
Is a quote in their song. And there's some other bits about Dune in that song. But in their music video, Christopher Walken is in it. And the great dancing.
God, if you haven't
great
seen it.
wire work. It's a really great video with him. And he's in Dune Part 2.
I kind of feel like that video was the beginning of the sort of his second or third act in Hollywood. It was the Christopher Walken Renaissance because of that video, or that helped it greatly. I always loved when Christopher Walken was on SNL. I think he's just the perfect madman for Saturday Night Live. God damn it. I love the Continentals so much.
So there are astronauts and other NASA scientists who have named parts of the moon, include Earth's moon, Saturn's moon, and other moons, like plains of Saturn's moon and craters of Earth's moon.
Okay.
So even the craters on moons have specific names.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a Sea of Tranquility.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of craters because shit gets hit on that thing a lot.
Did you hear that we're going to have a new moon?
What is that?
Like, for the next, month, there's going to be a small asteroid that circles our planet that is not going to actually... It's stuck in Earth's gravitational hold, but it's also kind of stuck in the sun's, so it's never going to burn up. But there's this small meteor that's going to
I saw that in the news.
Orbit the Earth, so we're getting
But I kind of skipped over. I was just like, second moon.
We're going to get a second moon for a month.
That's
but apparently
cool.
this happens often. It's just the first time we're really hearing about it. But
Can you
new moon, baby.
See it?
Nope.
Damn it.
Commercial telescopes, like professional telescopes, you can see it. They say it's too weak for amateur telescopes, but I know some people that have some insane amateur telescopes. So, we're not going to be able to see it with our naked eye or our camera or binoculars or anything, but new moon, baby.
I think my favorite bit of music in this whole movie, I mean, it's all good, but when the Harkonnen attack on the Atreides at night, when that whole thing starts up and ships are exploding around them, but just that whole sequence and the music, and it's just so epic and beautiful and devastating.
That the destruction of that city is breathtaking.
It is.
It is a stunning set piece. I mean, the tension leading up to
and that one was better than what they give us at the
better
climatic end of these two movies.
Fucking sandworms.
Yeah, the sandworms were like a great start.
Yeah.
When they come up out of the sand and they
You're
start,
just like, yes, motherfucker.
and it's just like, and then they show you Zendaya gets to do some kicks
cool
and
shit.
flips and stabs, and
you thought it was going to be Paul, turned out to be her.
Yeah, and then it goes right
into a warehouse.
Inside of a building
where
everybody's huddled in a small group, and then
standing around and
see
talking.
some smoke.
But
and then that's it.
That's it. Yeah. But the lead up, the build up to that night, it seems like everybody, maybe Paul doesn't quite know, but I feel like Duke Atreides and Lady Jessica, they know that that's the end for them. I feel like they know that. Leto even has that line about, I thought we had more time. It's such a beautiful, tense build up to knowing something bad is happening, and then just the utter destruction of that city. It's so fucking cool. And it kind of also goes to show you how little the Harkonnens care about Arrakis and that city in general, because they're willing to destroy shit.
They're willing to destroy it all just to get it back.
Just to get it back. I mean, those palm trees, they kept those palm trees alive for years, and then they just burn them all down.
Well, yeah, they don't care about the
lore, the history, the culture.
Nah, none of that. They could singe that planet to an absolute, just crust.
Yeah.
As long as they can restart spice
production. And make their money.
Mm-hmm. That's all they care about.
Because they don't have enough. That whole fucking scene is just killer. I really like when it would show kind of wide shots of all the soldiers all the soldiers fighting, and you would just see flashes of blue and red, as the suits, the
yeah.
protective armor would be getting hit, and you would just see the flashes of it. I thought that was really clever because it is such a dark scene, but it's not dark in the way that, like, you can't see shit. There is plenty of ambient light, so you can kind of see what's going on, even though it takes place in the dead of night and there's lots of fire and stuff. But yeah, like, just the cinematography and the choreography of those fight scenes, those battle scenes, is awesome. And it just kind of took my whole breath away the entire time. Like, Jesus Christ, it is intense. Same with the sandworm attack on the ship, on the spice ship, when the Duke and when Oscar and Timothy go out and, you know, to see the spice production.
Yeah, they just want to see spice production, and then they find out that one of the carryalls arms or whatever is malfunctioning because
because the Harkonnens
they believe that they've been left with
yeah.
faulty machinery, whereas the Fremen who's with them, she says that that's what the desert does to machinery.
Yeah.
You know, can't.
I never quite understood her whole character. Like, she was supposed to be like...
She's supposed to be working for the Emperor.
She's supposed to be there to show that the handoff is fair and smooth, but it's not fair and it's not smooth. And every time they were like, see, the Harkonnens fucked us, she's always like,
excuse.
Meh.
It's
but
like,
then she's helped saving his life because she thinks he's the Messiah.
Well, once, I mean, there's a moment where you go from a story that your grandmother told you to now you're seeing it happen in front of you. Yeah. And I think that was her turning point, which let her help them get away.
I enjoyed how they did that in the movie. There were a few times where they called attention to, like, this prophecy has been a part of your life your entire life, and now it's happening, and now you have to react like a human being would react. And it is very clever watching people, like, come to terms with, like, oh shit, this is no longer a prophecy, this is real. I really enjoyed that for a few times. But yeah, the whole sandworm eating that big fucking machine was really cool. And that's like one of the many times that, you know, Chalamet went out into the desert, got a face full of cocaine, and tripped balls for a while.
A lot of ball tripping.
A lot of ball tripping, yeah. It's fun to watch this movie high. The movie is a bit slow, I will say that. But there's so much that it has to build. There's so much world building.
A lot of world building.
And it does not let you take your attention away from it. Like, you are just... I could not take my eyes off of that screen until about halfway through part 2, when I was like, maybe I've done too much. Like, it's different watching these movies than watching, say, like, The Lord of the Rings back to back, because... You've seen The Lord of the Rings 1,000 times. Maybe for me it's because I know the story. I know the parts that I'm like, oh, Frodo and Sam are on screen. I can go to the bathroom. This is a dense watch through of these two films. But I'm glad that we did it because what a fucking ride.
I had so much fun, and I was also happy because ever since I bought Dune on Blu-ray, every time I watched it, I'd always fall asleep and then finish it at another moment. Yeah. And so this was the first time since it was in theater that I watched it in one sitting without falling asleep. Mm-hmm.
It's only the second time I'd ever seen it. For both movies, actually. Yeah.
Same. Second movie, when we saw it yesterday, it was my second time watching part 2.
Costumes and sets, just incredible. So lived in. I mean, the costumes that Lady Jessica gets to wear, my God.
Yeah, when she's Lady Jessica, she gets some amazing outfits. When she's the
Reverend
Mother,
she gets some crazy
amazing outfits.
She even looks good in the still suits.
All the still suits look really cool. Yeah. They look much better in this one than they did in David Lynch's.
Well, I'm also very curious too, who produces this stuff for the Fremen? Like, where are the factories that make the thumpers?
Towards the beginning of the movie,
or the still suits.
It is said that the still suits, the thumpers, all the little bits of technology, the tubing for taking water. Yeah. This was all technology made by the Fremen.
Which is great.
And
But, like, where?
But, yeah, they never show a factory, because this looks like either some really high-end plastic, or at least some kind of
space polymer, rubber. I mean, like, some of those tubes are definitely rubber.
Those plastic ones that you always see the water going through definitely look like rubber or some kind of soft plastic.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, the thumper looks like it's either a really hard, solid plastic or...
It looks metal to me.
It
I mean, there's
kinda
lots of
looks like
metal.
metal.
Yeah. So it makes me wonder. I realize now
it's a whole planet, and
it's
we
a whole
only
planet,
saw...
and we only see a bit
We
part
only
of it.
saw one portion of the north and one cave in the south.
I am tired of sci-fi planets that are just one climate.
One climate or even one city, like Coruscant.
Yeah,
But whatever...
but it's also a planet.
Is it both?
Yes, it is a planet-wide city.
Well, yeah, I know that there's no surface, there's no
Oh,
dirt
no.
on Coruscant,
Yeah,
but they always go to where every time a character lands, they always land next to like the Jedi Temple. Mm-hmm. There's a whole planet of stuff on this thing.
Yeah.
Same thing with Tatooine. I think there's like 3 or 4 different locations that you get to
Yeah.
go, but at least Tatooine, everybody wants Tatooine in their show or movie,
yeah,
so
'cause
it gets
it's desert,
talked about
it's
a
easy,
lot.
Yeah. But like, I'm just saying, like, Caladan was this beautiful, planet, but was it all just, fjords and water in Norway, basically? Like,
So beautiful.
so pretty. I will only and ever know how to pronounce that planet's name because of hearing Oscar say it at the end of every single one of
Caladan?
them. Yeah,
Oh.
every single one of our podcasts, because that's how I know it. Yeah, that's how I know that planet is because of him.
I was just focused on desert power.
We come from the desert. We know what little power there is there. But yeah, I just, like, obviously Dune was kind of one of the first big sci-fi things that a lot of people have borrowed from, stolen from, whatever you want to put it. But I'm kind of tired of planets that are just one ecosystem. Why does it always have to be a fully desert planet? Why can't the top be desert and the bottom be,
That's what you mean.
Like, why does it have to be just desert, just ice, just Norway, just,
Sure. Even a place like Tatooine, you gotta imagine that the poles are at least
Yeah.
a little colder,
a little different.
just a little bit.
Yeah.
Like not even a drop of water.
Like, these
up
are
near the
giant
poles.
planets. How do people exist on them when they're just...
Maybe I
like-
just don't know about planet. I mean, even in sci-fi games, they're like, this planet
I get that
has
it's...
this kind of
yeah.
weather and this kind of climate,
And I get that
always
it's
just
easy.
one. Yeah.
But I'm kind of over it. Like,
When-
I want
when you
more
come from a
versatility in
planet-
my sci-fi planets.
When you come
damn
from
it.
a planet as cool as Earth,
Yeah. Fucking right. Earth is so fucking cool.
I mean, you watch any travel show or,
Yeah, I mean, we just were watching the Grand Tour Boys in Zimbabwe, and fuck, I want to go there.
man, just the difference between
It's just, yeah.
East Zimbabwe and West Zimbabwe
Yeah,
are
insane.
insanely
Like, people
different.
need to film some fucking fantasy stories there, because Christ, that is some untouched land. Actually, don't go there. Don't touch
Don't touch
Just
it.
leave it alone.
Leave it alone.
Just
It's
fucking
beautiful the way it
Yeah,
is.
but just leave the people. Nobody needs another fantasy
Take
movie.
a picture and leave it the way you
Yeah,
came,
just don't.
just like the forest.
That spider woman in latex is definitely a sex toy.
That thing,
It's just, that's
Somebody
all I
told
can
me-
say about that thing.
somebody told me that those were described in the book, but I don't remember them being talked about.
Well,
So-
it's weird seeing somebody's fleshlight moving around, but that's 100% what those things were.
A lot of latex.
Yeah,
A lot
that's
of-
the whole Harkonnen planet and the way they treat women is pretty fucked. But yeah, that spider thing was, yeah.
I know how you love spiders.
Oh, I do. Zendaya is flawless. She's just flawless. She's just one of our best. And I swear to God, if her and Tom Holland break up, I will cry for days. I'm so invested.
Yeah. What's worse, Tom Holland and Zendaya breaking up, or Taylor Swift and
Travis Kelce.
Travis Kelce breaking up?
I think Tom and Zendaya just because they've been together longer, but like I want Taylor Swift to be happy, and Travis Kelce makes her so happy. So I get involved. Oh, and then I've got 2 more thoughts on Dune.
Okay.
One, and I mean this with no joke, a baby born of the heritage that both Zendaya and Timothée Chalamet's characters had.
Yes.
A baby born from those two would be too beautiful for this universe. It would destroy planets with its sheer cuteness. Because Chalamet has Rebecca Ferguson, Oscar Isaac. I mean, Stellan Skarsgård isn't hot, but he is hot. Not in this movie, but he's hot in real life. Anna Taylor-Joy comes out of the Oscar Isaac, Rebecca Ferguson, pipeline. And then you mix that with Zendaya's flawlessness. That baby could have ruled the entire universe. People would have been like, fuck spies, we're bound down to this baby, because that would have been one fucking incredibly beautiful child. That's all I'm saying. Like, thank God Timothée Chalamet and Zendaya are just, like, friends in real life, because if they had a child, it would be the utter destruction of this planet. Well, and I'd be okay with that.
And now he's with Princess Irulan, so what do you think about Timothée Chalamet and Florence Pugh?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it would be fine.
Oh.
I got nothing to say on that. Florence Pugh's a beautiful woman, but, like, Zendaya's...
What about Peter Parker and MJ?
Oh, yeah, again, when they have children, they are going to be beautiful children. But those cheekbones, I'm talking about fucking Paul Atreides and Chani, them coming together to create a baby with their heritage.
The cheeks and jaws from that.
Destroyed this planet. It would have been a baby girl who could grow an Oscar Isaac beard, and it would have been amazing.
Maybe that's why...
they couldn't be together?
Even Rebecca Ferguson has some amazing, like a great jawline and cheekbones, and even Oscar Isaac as well. Even though you can't see it because of the beard,
his jawline.
But
sometimes I just think about his jawline.
It makes sense why they cast Anya Taylor-Joy to play Duke and
their daughter,
Jessica's daughter, because even Anya Taylor-Joy, cheekbones and
just
jawline are
one of the most beautiful women on this planet.
They can all
like
cut deep gashes in you with those.
Anybody
with those
in that family, whatever they wanted, but I just want to bite of that beard. I want to pull it out of my teeth.
Anyway, what's your second thought?
My second thought and my last thought, because we don't want this to be too long. How do they get off the fucking worms? It'll drive me crazy. You can get on the worm. How do you get off the worm? How do you get multiple people on the worm? How do you get a fucking
multiple people
and a little like buggy carrying a pregnant woman?
That also, I would have loved to see how they did that.
Yeah.
The only thing I can say on how to get off is to just run backwards, because eventually you're just going to land on sand.
Okay.
Instead of jumping off
but
the
very
side,
soft sand because of the.
Well, yeah, it will be very soft.
Yeah.
You got to swim up before it.
I want to see somebody get off the fucking worm. I want to see how Lady Jessica in the second one in that basket that she was in got off.
How do you get off that thing?
Yeah,
that was a great visual, but the practicality of something like that.
And the practicality will always bother me. So that's one of my issues with Dune is like, show me somebody getting off. Show me Paul getting off the fucking worm.
Well, if that's your only issue with Dune,
should we get into ratings? Is there anything else you want to say about this? You love Dune.
Dune.
Oh boy, you Dune. There it is. You love these stories. You always have. I mean, you're sitting next to a copy of the book right now.
I do. I'm almost done with my second read through of the book.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to originally. I was trying to get it read before Dune Part 2 came out, and I still haven't finished it. So,
life.
It's.
I admire people that can spend all day reading because I can't, and I used to, but I can't anymore. It's just not in my brain capacity. I crack open a book and I go to sleep instantly.
Before I even saw David Lynch's Dune, I fell in love with the sci-fi miniseries from 2000.
Yeah, you do. I mean, you know what? You've talked about the sci-fi miniseries a few times. There was a while there. My particular favorite is called Tin Man, and I'm pretty sure it's Neil McDonough, Zooey Deschanel, fucking Alan Cumming, and it's like a retelling of The Wizard of Oz, which is a story I don't like in the first place, but it's a retelling of the story of Oz, and it was a miniseries, and I fucking loved that one. They did an Alice in Wonderland one that was great, and they always were like dystopian versions of these stories. I kind of miss the 2-hour, 2-episode miniseries that network TV used to do.
Well, this was like
they haven't done it in so long.
This was 3 episodes.
There you go.
And it was an hour and a half each episode.
Well, 2 hours with credit
this
commercials.
This was a 4-hour
Yeah.
Dune from the 2000s,
yeah.
And I own it on DVD. I've had it with me forever. I was recently trying to watch it as well before this recording.
Yeah.
But of course, it ran out of time.
There's just no time in our day.
But it's how I figured out who.
It's what got you into the stories.
Well, it's how I knew William Hurt from Lost in Space because he played John Robinson. That's how I really got to know who he was as an actor, because I hadn't watched anything before that, and I was obviously always into sci-fi. I was into Friends, so Matt LeBlanc being in Lost in Space is probably what brought me there. But of course, William Hurt, great actor. He was in, we know him from a lot of nerds know him from
Captain America,
Civil War, and the
Thunderbolt.
Hulk, the Hulk movie. But yeah, he got to play Duke Leto Atreides in the sci-fi miniseries.
I've not seen a lot of other names here that I recognize from that miniseries.
There aren't.
Yeah.
Like, William Hurt is the only person I know from this movie.
There's so many of these people
Giancarlo Giannini.
He looks vaguely familiar.
Yeah, he was in some the Daniel Craig Bond movies. He was in Man on Fire. So yeah, the book, the miniseries. Later on, I got into David Lynch's version. Watched that many times, especially before this new one came out. And then I was getting into Alejandro Jodorowsky through El Topo and Holy Mountain.
You love the Holy Mountain.
Holy Mountain's a great, wacky movie that makes you feel like you're taking acid, which is what he wanted people.
He wanted.
He wanted people to feel like they were taking acid when watching Dune. That was something he was actually going for, which made me even more want to see what his version of Dune was. Yeah, and then Villeneuve's version came out, and I already loved his work with Sicario and 2049. So when I had the opportunity to go see it and part 2, I loved every moment of it. I definitely like part 1 more.
Yeah, I preferred part 1. Part 2 felt kind of like a letdown.
And I would give part 1 4.5 stars.
I'll agree with you there. Yeah, no, I think that it's a solid 4.5 star film. It's funny because when we went into watching this, like, before we watched it yesterday morning, I was like, wouldn't it be funny if I just kind of like hated this movie and like gave it 3 stars, like, and Steve and I just argued about the point of it. Because like I remember loving it when I saw it the first time, and then 3 years have gone by, and sometimes you're not in the mood, whatever. But like I was just sucked in instantly, and I was just like, oh shit, I am now involved with this story. So much so that when it ended, I looked at Caveman and was like, we have to watch part 2 now.
Gotta finish it.
Like, we gotta finish it. We've got the time. Let's just do it. And I'm definitely glad that we did. It's, it's not my favorite movie of all time, but god damn it, does Oscar Isaac have a thigh, and you get to see it. And that beard, oh boy. So,
I think you're getting close to 5 stars just because of that.
Oh my god, that beard itself is a 5-star beard. It is. That first picture that came out of him where he's like in the full armor and he's looking over his shoulder.
I remember that.
And then fucking John Boyega posted it on his Instagram and was like, fucking hell, Oscar, what are you doing? Which drives me crazy because I'm Storm Pilot till death. So yeah, like that first look, that beard, and I'm not the only one. That beard is a pop culture beard. It is flawless and perfect. But yeah, 4.5. It's a great fucking film. I mean, it's a great story overall. I would probably give the second one maybe a 3.5, just because I felt very let down by the end of it.
Yeah, it's pretty
and like
strong.
Paul is such an asshole by the end of that movie.
He is.
It's just, you're like, oh, you're
he doesn't
a
get
piece
much
of
better
shit.
from
No.
there. He continues to be an asshole. Yeah, I'd probably give the second one 3.5.
Yeah.
Which is why, like, when I first saw it, I kept on going back and forth
Being like,
on
really?
my
The second
Letterboxd.
one's higher? Oh.
On the Letterboxd,
Yeah.
just for 2024 movies, and it was taking me, but it was just like, how much did I like it? How is it?
Where's it on the list?
Was it really? Yeah, where is it on the list? Currently, it's number 3 on my 2024 list. But
Interesting.
it's above Deadpool Wolverine for me. I don't know if people have seen The Bike Riders, which also has Austin Butler in it and a bunch of other great actors.
Yeah.
But that movie was so surprisingly good. It's number 4 on my list, but I'm almost thinking, especially after seeing Dune 2 for a second time, and we've talked about how important it is to watch these movies for a second time, I might put The Bike Riders above Dune 2.
Fair.
Alien Romulus is actually above Dune 2, which I know a bunch
What's your
of
number one?
Civil War.
Oh, yeah. We talked about this.
Yeah. Alien Romulus it blew me away with how it kind of went back to finally a proper alien movie.
Yeah, aliens on a ship.
That goes back to its horror roots
Mm-hmm.
instead of trying to be an action film all the time.
I haven't heard anything bad about it. Despite, K-Man and I were musing about this the other day. Despite my birthday being really close to Halloween, I myself am not a big horror fan, but I'm friends with a lot of horror fans. And everybody that I know that has seen Alien Romulus, who are like legit horror fans
Yeah.
and legit whores, they all love it. And thought that it was a great film. Before we shut things down here, and you go on to two questions, which I'm curious about who the two questions are going to be about. I'm looking at stills from the sci-fi miniseries that you love so much of Dune.
Yeah.
And it does make me happy that then, now, forever, the blue eyes of the Fremen will always just be eyeballs with a little bit of blue colored
The blue tint.
They did it. They did it
up
best
the brightness of the blue.
Yeah, they did it the best. They haven't done
They perfected
anything
it.
else.
They perfected it
It
for
looks a little
Villeneuve.
cheesy still,
Sure, because all of a
especially in
sudden
the
you have
background. You're like,
I do like how in certain light, especially outside, it was
Yeah.
harder to see.
yes,
Whereas in David Lynch and the sci-fi one, bright outside,
no matter
it
what.
was just like it's still this bright blue
Yeah.
that's always, which gets a little annoying.
Yeah, but it
after
cracks me
I've
up.
seen
I'm just
that.
looking at some of these pictures and I'm like, oh my god, that could have been taken from Denis Villeneuve, except for the costumes are horrendous, and the people are definitely not as attractive.
It was made by sci-fi.
Well, in the 2000s, I know, but still. I'm glad that we rewatched it again for sure. And I'm glad that we watched it, in its entirety. So I had fun with you, honey.
I had a great time.
Yay.
So Maggie,
Yes, Caveman.
I have two questions for you.
Let's do this.
Now that our producer here has so bravely thwarted the terrorist threat to our water supply, I'd like to say buenas noches.
Wait a minute. Play that again.
Now that our producer here has so bravely thwarted the terrorist threat to our water supply, I'd like to say buenas noches.
Is that Lee Pace?
No, I'm going to give you one more,
Okay.
and then this one will be easy.
I don't recognize the movie. I don't
No, I
recognize the
know.
quote.
I thought it was a funny quote, so
So
I put it
you
in,
picked a
but-
quote that I'm not going to get?
No, but you'll get this one.
Okay.
I want you to join me.
We were just talking about it.
So the first clip is from The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, which is
Yeah, which
Terry
I haven't
Gilliam.
seen.
Terry Gilliam movie.
Terry Gilliam movies are hard to swallow.
Oh no, they're not. I love Terry
God,
Gilliam.
no, they're
movies.
weird. They're way too weird.
I've seen most of his movies.
I know you have. Have you
love
seen
it.
this one?
No, I haven't.
Jessie has, and she loved it.
Yeah.
But of course she did. She is.
No, which means I'll love it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Maggie.
Wait, what was the second quote again?
I want you to join me.
Adam Driver, you big gigantic mountain of a man. I want you to devastate me.
So Maggie, with the presence of Adam Driver in
Ooh.
Dune, have made it a better movie.
Fuck yeah, I would have enjoyed the shit out of that. Like, it wouldn't have made it a worse film, but it would have definitely made it a great fucking movie. So yeah, fucking sign me up.
So question number 2, what character would you have had Adam Driver play?
What character would I want Adam Driver, a rudely large man who could step on my throat, to play? I mean, he's 9.5 feet tall.
I have a couple.
His hands are the size of basketballs.
I have a couple in mind that I'd have him
Proportionately,
play.
it's got to be just down to his fucking knee. So
I don't know what that has to do with being in Dune.
what? I don't know. I wouldn't want to see him bald. So I wouldn't want him to be one of the Harkonnens.
I think it'd be cool as Fade, but you're right. The baldness
Yeah.
may not work.
No.
But still, we're talking about the first movie.
Yeah.
So you can't play that anyway.
Maybe he could have been Duncan Idaho, although still, what a dumb fucking name. And Jason Momoa was great in it. But he would have done a good Duncan Idaho. He could have been a very young Gurney.
It'd be really... Because Gurney's supposed to be...
Yeah, he's supposed to be battle
the
worn.
older...
Yeah.
the battle...
He could have played a very convincing and very brilliant Duke Atreides. He could have done Oscar's oral. brilliantly. But I would have wanted to see him play against Oscar, so then maybe Lady Jessica. I mean, that tall, lanky frame would be great in some of those dresses. I don't know. That's... I pulled up, as soon as you brought up Adam Driver, I pulled up John Oliver's... You remember when John Oliver was randomly obsessed with Adam Driver, right? And he kept just saying all these really random things about Adam Driver, like, sneeze in my McFlurry, you pensive bison.
Okay. I think...
Ravage my lungs, you relentless hillock.
Right,
pull my heart out
focus.
through my ear, you mighty oak tree. Impale my brain, you inacceptable monstrosity. So I love Adam Driver. I don't love him nearly as much as Jesse loves him. Jesse is obsessed with Adam Driver. I've got Oscar. She's got Adam. It works out. It's a good part of our friendship. And yeah, I absolutely adore him. I think he would have been incredible in any role they wanted to put him in Dune. I would love to see Adam Driver do something with Denis Villeneuve, because incredible actor, incredible director, put them together. Adam Driver is out there doing whatever the fuck he wants.
Yeah, now he picks projects that he
picks weird projects. Like, I watched that Ferrari movie and it was so goddamn boring.
It was not great.
It wasn't great. He was good in it.
He was, but I didn't really like his accent.
No. And then to have him follow up with, was that before or after he did the House of Gucci?
I think House of Gucci came before.
Which I still haven't seen, and I've been told by a lot of reliable people not to.
Same. I'd rather see
But like
him...
65 was one of my favorite films of the year it came out, because it was just literally Adam Driver versus dinosaurs, and it was fucking stupid, and it was fun. And if you haven't watched 65, like, it is a solid, barely 2-hour popcorn flick where it's Adam Driver versus the dinosaurs, and there are so many times that I laughed out loud at how fucking stupid it is while shoveling popcorn down my throat and loving every single second of it. And I'm curious about Megalopolis, which Caveman's going to see soon.
I'm going to go see it in a few days, so I'm happy about that.
But, like, on the one hand, I do absolutely love Adam Driver, but on the other hand, I don't like anything else about that movie. So he'll have to tell me whether or not it's something to watch. But, yeah, that was a good one. I was trying to go through my brain. I was like, well, we've already done Sebastian Stan.
I would like... Yeah. No, yeah, he's trying to figure out who I was going to pick.
Yeah.
It was not easy. Adam Driver is great in The Black Klansman.
Yes.
He's great in Logan Lucky.
Oh, God. I want to rewatch Logan Lucky because there's so many good people in that.
It's such a good movie.
I mean, of course, Star Wars. Although Kylo Ren had diminishing returns, and I still don't think that him and Rey should have gotten together in capacity because they're fucking cousins. But yeah, Adam Driver, he's so pretty. All his little moles and his giant, giant hands. Hold on, one more quote from John Oliver. Chokeslam me to hell, you nasty shed. Jam your mandible claw down my throat, you indomitable steer. I love John Oliver's love for Adam Driver.
Are you done?
Yes. And that has been this week's episode of Movie Mingle on Dune. We hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed talking about it for you. We've got a lot of really fun things to come. Next week is The Shining, which, fuck me, I'm not excited for because, well, we all know how I don't like horror, and I've tried to avoid this particular movie for years. So, oh, yay. And then with The Shining, and now that we're in October, there is going to be an entire month of special bonus episodes devoted to all things spooky. Some horror movies that I'm wanted to watch, that I'm being made to watch, and some that I just flat out love. So yeah, it's kind of exciting that we're going to drop a couple different spooky episodes for you to enjoy. As ever, thank you so much for listening. You can find us on Threads, Instagram, and Letterboxd at movieminglepod. You can write us at movieminglepod@gmail.com, and you can find us on YouTube at movieminglepodcast. We're having a lot of fun doing this silly little thing, so if you like what we're doing, feel free to write us and let us know, and or rate us and leave reviews of 5 stars or whatever you think we deserve on any podcast platform of your choice. Until next week, take good care of yourselves, have fun, maybe ease off the spice just a little, and go mingle. Bye.
Are you an effective team?
We are an effective team.
Let them fight.
How did you just do that?
I'm a really good lawyer.
Here on Caladan, we've ruled by air power and sea power. On Arrakis, we need to cultivate desert power.
Welcome, Mr. Beach. What's that bar? I'm a little confused.
Well, we wouldn't want that, would we?
I don't want to brag, but I will. I was in the Avengers.
The Avengers?
Yeah.
That's great. Thank you. What is that?
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Toga, 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 toga.